Good evening and welcome to the Varietal Show. If you've never been here before, you're watching Varietal Literature, a channel where we basically just do things with narrative. And on Tuesdays, which isn't tonight, that is reading old folklore and fairy tales called Fireside Fairy Tales. And tonight, we do what I call the Varietal Show, which is a write-along, where we use some sort of premise, usually a solo tabletop RPG or something like that, as a prompt to try and write a story or a character or build a world or whatever else. What we're doing tonight is something we haven't done in a while. We're going to try and build out a few backstories for some monsters to attach to a game that we really enjoyed, that we played a couple of weeks ago, called Pocket Hex. Now, I'll tell you a little bit more about how that's going to work, because it's a bit different from what we've been doing for the last 6 or 7 months, but it is something we've done before on the stream if you've been watching for a very long time. If I didn't mention it, my name's Rory, and to my, what would it be for you? Your left? My left? Your right? I don't know. To the side, depending on how you've arranged your YouTube, there is a live chat that has been classified as a toxic hazard, but actually one of the cool ones. Like, apparently it makes like Hulks and superhumans, so you probably want to get in there, because I have it on good authority that it will probably give you superpowers. Everyone in there has them, and they'll tell you about them. But for me, I will say hello to all my Avengers team here, which is Uncle Kitty, Witchery, Jumpstore, GS, Zombie Wolf, and I'm sure a couple of others will be jumping in later. Oh, and GS, if I didn't already say it. As you can hear, I still have the cough. It gets lesser every day, but it lingers. That will mean occasionally I'll have to like pause and drink water and stuff. And also, we're still on the bad laptop, which means at some point the stream could just shut off. One of the things that laptop has provided as a limitation is originally I had the thought that I wanted to do sort of, I'm not an artist really, or at least a visual artist, but I wanted to do my best to try and sketch the animals we came up with, or the beasties we came up with. And this computer just can't run that many programs. It can't run the music, the Streamlabs, the Chrome takes its pound of flesh, and so on. Zombie Wolf says, hydration is important, Rory. Yes, especially since I am half slug. That's my superpower. I can leave trails of slime that make it easier to slide across the floor. Tammy Morelli says, good evening, everyone. Sorry I was running late, but I made it. There is no late here. You arrive only when you mean to. All right. This part of the show is called litgames. It stands for literature games. It's where it's the whole show. It's where we play tabletop RPGs, usually solo tabletop RPGs, or at least ones I've altered to work as a solo one, or lyric games or journaling games or whatever. It's the kind of stuff you find on the corners of itch.io, mostly indie games and so on, because I'm a writer and that interests me as writing. Where you can join in is in the chat. You can give me prompts and ideas, and especially tonight, that'll be quite necessary. And I'll do my best to integrate with the recommendations that I get. Now, the game that we're going to talk about tonight is a game that we did a couple of weeks ago. It was the most popular video that this channel has ever done. It's still the most popular video of the week. Even though it's like 2 weeks old, it still had the most views and interaction, which is cool. I wouldn't say that's why I've chosen to do this again, but I would say it feels more justified to try it again. I usually have other ideas, and then I'm like, I don't know if anyone wants me to do a game again. But here's the thing. When I was playing Pocket Hex, which I'll tell you about in a moment, the thing that I noticed is that it doesn't really have any monsters. I mean, it kind of does, but it doesn't really have a lot of monsters. And if you've ever played the most classic version of a tabletop RPG, which is Dungeons and Dragons, I'm sure there's some niche thing that somebody can bring up that predates it, but really Dungeons and Dragons is the grandfather of all of this. This is the 5th edition book, which is still the most recent, though they're doing their best to do even worse. But you'll notice that this is a monster manual, and so if you were to start with D&D, you needed 3 books. The first one is called a Player's Handbook, where it puts all the character stats, and it's what's used for a player to build their character. There's a book called the Dungeon Master's Guide Manual. There's lots of names for it, but in this case it was a guide. And the Dungeon Master is the person who sort of directs the whole game. But then the third book is a monster manual. And in a monster manual, what you'll find is monsters. See how they always come with art? And then this box next to them, it's hard to do this in mirror, is a bunch of statistics and so on about how they fight, which isn't really what we're going to do today, because this game doesn't have much room for that. But prior to some monsters, they'll give you long lists of text. And what that text is backstories about those creatures, in this case, the Githyanki. That's where we're focusing. I want us to create some monsters that we can fight if we play Pocket Hex again, but we need to give them little backstories and maybe some special abilities just to liven them up. And we'll give it a shot. And if no one ever has any interest in this, whatever, we tried it. Jumpstore says monster manuals contain monsters. I know, I was quite surprised myself. I thought it'd be like a manual on how to repair your monster. I didn't know it'd be full of monsters. Witchery says, I love a bestiary. Well, good, because that's what we're doing. Okay, so I'll remind you just briefly about Pocket Hex. The only real interaction with Pocket Hex as a game is that you roll 2d6. This is only going to slightly matter to what we're up to, but you roll 2d6, and then you total those 2 dice together, plus any kind of buffs your character has, which I won't go back into. If you're interested in that, you can watch the Pocket Hex video from a couple of weeks ago. I go over it a bit more. But they give us these difficulty score guidelines, which is an easy fight is 8, a moderate fight is 10, and a hard fight is 12. And basically, when you roll 2d6 dice, you compare it to the difficulty score of the monster or the trap or whatever you're up against. And if by the time you subtract your total from its difficulty score, if it's a positive number left, then you have done damage, and if it's a negative number left, then you take damage. And that's the only real interaction that you get with villains, which means that if we're going to have any kind of defining special abilities from these villains, it has to be stuff on a more story level. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. Let's say we want to have a monster that is a cat who can, I don't know, envenomate a person with a sort of charm poison. And that the effects of that charm poison, if they take, let's say they get envenenated, they get poisoned. I know that's not the word, but for some reason I'm stumbling over the right one. If they take more than, I don't know, 4 damage in a turn, then you have this charm where you have to get that cat food before you can break the charm and carry on with your hex. You see what I mean? Like, it's not a mechanical thing per se. It's something that gives a story prompt about how the creature would affect you. Zombie Wolf says, was this the game where our guy got stung to death by flower scorpions? Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Okay, I think I've probably explained enough. At this point, you'll either pick it up as we go. The only thing you really need to know, I'm giving some sort of insider baseball mechanical stuff for the people who do absorb these games on that level, but if that's too much for you, it doesn't matter. I want you to think of your favorite fantasy creatures and then start mashing them together with other things, like, I don't know, a unicorn guinea pig or something, and we'll try to develop little backstories and give them a difficulty score and a name, and maybe some special ability based on some possible outcome to the rolls. Witchery says he deserved it. Didn't he ever? Oh, by the way, I don't think I've ever mentioned this. My partner was a ceramicist when she was in university, and I'm a rock climber, and she made me this mug that has rock climbing holds. I sort of recommended it to the design to her. I'd seen a picture, Photoshop version of this before. And then it got broken, and for many years I didn't drink it. And recently she took up kintsugi which is so much work that it probably wasn't worth it. So now I have a kintsugi rock climbing mug. Anyways. I see we already have ideas aflowing. Okay, so that's about it. So it's going to be less involved on a narrative level. Don't worry, I'm not giving up on narrative stuff. Like I said, I've done stuff before where like we just take pictures of people and try to build backstories out of them and stuff, and we're kind of doing that here. Okay, so the first one I see is a unicorn manticore. Manticore is the lion, snake, goat. Is that the one I'm thinking of, or is it? I gotta remind myself of this. Tail of a dragon. Okay. Or a scorpion. Body of a lion and the head of a man. Boy, I was way off. Sure. Oh, Chimera, yeah. Unicorn, and then we'll put in there manticore variation. Okay. So now, I'm gonna sort of like drive a little more my ideas forward first, so people get an idea of how these things come together, because for those of us who've played a bunch of games like this is probably a lot easier to pick up on than those of you who haven't. So I just want to kind of give you an example of what this looks like. So what you would want to do is give some description of like where they come from, where they're found, and kind of what their temperaments are, right? So like if this was a dragon, I would say they tend to be in the mountains. That's not necessarily true, but let's say that's the case for the game I'm in. They tend to be in mountain caves. They are born from eggs, from parents that largely abandon them. And they tend to want to hoard gold and are quite defensive in that manner. So like the unicorn manticore variation, we could say sometimes a unicorn is not... sometimes a unicorn is born tone deaf and cannot join the morning choirs of happy unicorn music. These variants either take up the drums or run away and join up with roving bands of creatures, including manticores. When this happens, hybrid offspring are born. Typically called tunicorns. Who are noted for their songs that resemble trumpet solos and squealing pigs. Special, so difficulty, what is it? What do they call it in this game? I constantly forget. Difficulty something. Score, that's it. Difficulty score, let's say, youngling 8, adult 10. And then finally, and we don't have to do this with everything, but special ability so it has to be something connected to the mechanics of the game, which is just rolling 2d6. So for example, we could say if both dice are the same number, then the player must cover their ears and complain about the terrible singing for 1 round. I don't know if that's balanced, by the way. I'm not too worried about it in a solo. So yeah, see, Zombie Wolf was right ahead. Apparently the ability to make their enemies' ears bleed. But you see how, like, what I mean, like, we can't, in D&D you might say, you know, they can roll an advantage if this happens, or they have spells or whatever else. But you can't really do that in a game like this. And the games like this are about prompting story moments. So, you know, you got to think about what can the dice do. They can lose by a certain amount if you take a certain amount of damage on a turn. If you do a certain amount of damage on a turn, maybe there's a buff. Whatever else. And this is all I'm really talking about doing. We have the unicorn, manticorn variation. If they're really bad at singing or don't want to, they go and join the little metalheads. That makes it sound like I think metalheads can't sing. Most of the music I listen to would be classified as metal or punk. That's not what I'm saying. But, you know, give them a difficulty score and then see if there's some way we can do little special abilities. So, hopefully, that gives you guys an idea of what I'm doing. And hopefully it's fun. If it's not, we'll never do it again. What else did we have? A Nemean Lion Dragon. Alright. Let me Google Nemean. I know I've heard it. don't know it. Oh, yes. The one that Hercules fought. Just a big-ass lion with gold fur. I like the kind of metal, though, I should add, that, like... I like slower metal. I like Caius and, wow. A name that, whose meaning changed quite a bit, but a band named Isis. And, I don't know, I could go on. There's other ones. This isn't compelling to listen to. A Nemean lion dragon. Okay. Let's think. How do we make that backstory fun? We don't just want to say they're all crossbreeding with each other. What's a way to sort of create a compelling character? The other thing we can do for special abilities, by the way, is like define their behavior. Like every turn they will, you know, run away after or something like that, or try to hide, or, you know, whatever else. Nemean lion dragon. GS says, any singers in the chat? I know the basics of singing, but I wouldn't say I'm any good at it. I was a piano player, a bass player, and then a guitar player. I haven't really done much music for the last few years. Zombie Wolf says, a wizard experiment gone horribly wrong. So like owlbear territory. Okay, okay. Oh, what's the funniest way I could do that? Uncle Kitty says the Tarrasque in France was a lion-headed dragon. Here, yeah, I didn't know the Tarrasque had any basis in reality. I mean, in history, I guess. For many years, it was just a creature in D&D. Tammy says, I can sing, but no one wants to hear me. Well, that's okay. I mean, largely arts are engaged in for your own fun. Jump Story did say a long way of saying when a manticore and a unicorn really fancy each other. GS says, I'm a singer. What's your favorite type of music to sing, GS? Okay, I got an idea. The Nemean lion dragon. The Nemean lion dragon, when it was not combing its golden hair, are fighting off pumped up trust fund kids of Zeus. Enjoyed long hours of opera singing. Their grand voice, I don't know why all our creatures sing, but that's how today's going. Their grand voice was heard throughout the valleys. It would wander, and though most wept at its beauty, Steve, the passable wizard, hated how it distracted him from his studies of mediocre magic. Jumpstore says a wizard named Locutus attempted alchemy in order to get into a mystery cult, but when attempting to make a chimera combination of the ultimate monster, he was shockingly successful. That says, damn, I couldn't type fast enough. I will have to keep that in mind. That everybody needs some time to think and type. I'll tell you what, Jumpstore, I'm sure we'll have another monster. Hang on to that nugget, remind me of it, and we will work it into, hopefully, the next one. One day, he mixed up a potion meant to stifle the voice of the grand golden lion, but accidentally oh, I see, low IQtus. His name is a pun on low IQ. Well, that's fantastic. But accidentally added dragon's blood instead of the silent puffer's blood. The consequence was when he threw it into the open mouth of the Grand Lion during the peak of an aria. He only fused and morphed the creature into a hybrid dragon lion that now burned cities and forests with its beautiful songs. Difficulty score. What do you think the difficulty score of the Nemean lion dragon would be? Now I'm thinking about jump stores. Because we have another one coming up, which is the 700-pound guinea pig. Oh, I think, yeah, I agree, Uncle Kitty. Difficulty score 12. Do you guys think it needs a special ability? If so, what do you think it should be? I don't know if this does violence to your backstory, Jumpstore, because obviously you attached it to the lion, but what about attaching that to the 700-pound guinea pig? Because it still works. Tried to create the ultimate monster, and he was shockingly successful, which it turns out to be as a 700-pound guinea pig, the nearly unstoppable killing machine. Yeah, Zombie Wolf said it should be pretty high. I agree. This feels very final bossy. How about this? A special ability that's a debuff for it. Oh my god, that's an amazing name, Uncle Kitty. Walter the Guinea Big. Jumpstore says the ability to dazzle its enemies with its golden scales drawback. It has this effect as well. Ah, I like that. Special ability. Trying to think of how to limit it on the fly. If a hit is only for 1 damage, then roll 2d6 again. And if the total is less than 8, you do no damage and instead are fascinated by the beauty of its scales. And I realize this is probably confusing because writing game mechanics on the fly is not a good move, to be honest. If a hit is only for 1 damage, so like if you rolled a 13, then you roll the 2d6 again, and if the total of that roll is less than 8, instead of doing damage, you were fascinated by the beauty of its scales. This applies to the creature as well. So if they roll against you and only do 1 damage, they check to see if they are fascinated by their own skills. Does that sound good, chat? Jumpstore and says, yes, use my wizard for the guinea pig. Excellent. See, it all works out. Uncle Kitty says he enjoys powering his way through bales of hay and running hellbent for leather through the farmer's fields. Very much so. Guinea pigs are just delightful creatures. Okay, I'm gonna take Jumpstore's. What do you? I think guinea pig is the best name we're gonna come up with all day. So we're just gonna call them categorically guinea pigs because that's amazing. See, it would have been quite fun, I think, if I was able to like switch over and do, honestly, inviting people to laugh at my drawings, which I'm fine. I'm not self-conscious about it. But yeah, I just, this computer can't run it. So you at home, feel free to sketch up the creatures we come up with, because obviously art is great. And if you feel so inclined, you can send them to me on Mastodon. My contact info is for Mastodon is down in the description below, or Instagram, I guess. I don't really go on Instagram. I'll incorporate them here. I mean, I'm not like publishing anything here. I'm just putting them up for streams in the future. GS says a 700-pound guinea pig squeal could deafen opponents. Good point. Okay. Uncle Kitty says if you fail to damage Walter, he adopts you. Does it just happen to that all these words were... Oh, there you go. A wizard named Loicutus. In order to get into a mystery cult. I'm gonna put some specifics to that. Go away, Scoopy Biscuits. We're done with you. What about in order to impress an order of his magic school fraternity? Not that I think your version works better if we were playing like a serious game. I'm just going for some silliness just because of the context here. But when attempting to make a chimera combination of the ultimate monster, he was surprisingly successful okay, I'm going to expand it a little bit. Give it a little more sequence of events. He decided to try... Jumpstore says, I would fail to damage Walter. I was thinking maybe the special ability is that you can just choose to not damage Walter, and instead, if you roll and eventually do enough damage to him, you can befriend him. But he absolutely will not follow your orders. He decided to try animal fusions to achieve create the ultimate weapon. His first preliminary experiment turned out to be the most experiment on a pet guinea pig of his turned out to be the most successful. So successful, in fact, that the first guinea pig, Walter, was grown to 700 pounds and ate his creator. Uncle Kitty said it's absolutely adorable. It keeps wanting to sit on your lap. That's true. Tammy says that sounds great, Rory. Thank you for the feedback, Tammy. Zombie Wolf says, lol, that's kind of sad, GS. Well, I guess. I don't know. I think it's also kind of funny. GS says I hit the thumbs up button already. Well, thank you. You know, honestly, I wish I could say I'm super cool, and that's why I never remind people anymore about giving the thumbs up. The truth is, I just forget. Also, it probably doesn't matter. Like, honestly, unless you're doing massive YouTube numbers, I don't even think it matters. YouTube is just this abusive gaslighting partner that ever so often will be like, oh, this? Yeah, this will do really well. And this thing that's exactly like that, no one's going to see it. Not even your followers will see that one. You'll be like, why, YouTube? And they'll be like, you know why. That's what it's like. So I try to ignore it. So successful, in fact, that the first guinea pig was grown to 700 pounds and ate his creator. It continues to eat to this day, to eat a trail through... Oh, how did you put it, Uncle Kitty? I'll use your words here, because that's the point. Jumpstore says, I'm the kind of person, if a YouTuber tells me to like and subscribe, I do the exact opposite, so I have the last to laugh. You know, I hate to say it, but it works. Like, when I don't say it, I get probably 30% less. It just works. I mean, how often have you watched a video, liked the video, and then just not even thought about it? Like, once it's done, your brain's moved on, right? And that's usually what happens. So I understand why people do it. It continues to eat a trail. Continues to eat. I do like powering as a verb, but I want to connect it to this aid as creator line. It continues to eat its way. I won't define its gender. Its way through bales of hay while running hellbent for letter through the farmer's fields. Difficulty score. I mean, I don't want to make them all 12s. Maybe an 11? I mean, if we're saying it's the perfect killing machine, I guess it's got to be 12. Uncle Kitty says the only thing more annoying than like and subscribe is brought to you by Raid Shadows Legends. Oh, I can think of more annoying things than that. I imagine on this rinky-dink tiny little stream in the corner of YouTube, if I was like, all right, 9 followers, check out Raid Shadow Legends. If you love solo tabletop RPGs, you'll love heavily monetized mobile idle games. Jumpstore says, I think the difficulty would be finding anyone that want to hurt the giant guinea pig. Well, that's why I'm going to give its special ability is that it can be cuddled into a little snoring ball, and then you don't have to fight it. How about I start pitching crypto? Hey guys, check out my NFT project. God. I think I would delete my own channel. Not even intentionally, I would just, my better nature would sleepwalk me in here and delete the channel. Okay, so we'll say it's a 12. And then special ability. Each successful roll, you can choose instead to cuddle or comfort the guinea pig. This is counted as if it were damage, except upon Jumpstore says depends on the cursed images your NFT is offering. No, it doesn't. The whole thing's a scam. Hey guys, check out, I know it sounds bad, but check out my offshore unregulated crypto gambling institution. Just suddenly my channel is flush with $14 million. GS says, I envision the GP guinea pig as smooth orange and white. No, not that I haven't had many different colored ones. I think I'll leave it up to, because you know the point of the game is that people can use them however they want. This is counted as if it were damage, except except upon reaching what's the word here? Depleting its health pool, it goes to sleep and becomes friendly, though it will never follow instructions. If you offer it hay or vegetables, that automatically does 6 damage, 6 cuddle damage. If at any point you choose to do regular damage, the guinea pig will never be friendly to you. Zombie Wolf says, "Oh, I call the ginger white guinea pig fur color orange sherbet." Yeah, it is. It even has like little swoops like that. GS says cuddle damage and then a little happy face. When I was sick, actually I think we're on 4, right? When I was sick, I have a Nintendo Switch and I've been playing the emulator games, and I've discovered, even though I was alive during it, I didn't really play video games when I was a kid. I played them as an adult, but I discovered that the Game Boy Advance has like one of the best libraries of games I've ever experienced. But the one that I'm playing right now is Golden Sun. And man, some of the monsters in that are, I'm just saying, we're doing about the same quality here, because some of the monsters in that are very slapped together. It's a good game, but it's not like, I feel like its monster selection is a bit lazy at times. Okay, well, that was all the recommendations we had. What else do we want to do, guys? Zombie Wolf says, every time I hear creamsicle, I always thought of the soda. And then Tommy points out that's cream soda. Yeah, is there a creamsicle soda? What brand? I'd love to try a creamsicle soda. Have you guys ever heard of Screamers? Obviously that's probably something that has other names, but in the province I live in, British Columbia, in particular, in a particular region, not the region I live in, there's a thing called Screamers, and what they are is they're Slurpees with soft serve vanilla ice cream in them, and usually it's orange, right? So usually what it is an orange Slurpee, and then sort of at the same time is poured in soft serve vanilla ice cream, and you eat it. Man, they're good. They're exactly as good as you'd think they are. In the area that they make them in, is a place where you primarily are just driving through small towns on road trips, and so it's like the perfect grab for a road trip thing. I'm sure it has presence elsewhere, but it is a very specifically regional thing around here. Yeah, anyways, I mean, we can call it if people don't want to come up with more monsters, but do we want to do some more monsters? I did like the idea of those like flower scorpions and stuff. Like we can also do sort of monsters and so Uncle Kitty said there's a farm near here that does slushy Slurpees out of apple cider. Oh, awesome. How about a Mr. Blobbyfish? I like that. What about a Hydra and Kitsune? Well, this is brilliant, isn't it? Okay, we'll start with Mr. Blobbyfish. Okay, I'm going to actually call it Mr. Blobbyfish. And Mr. Blobbyfish will... Yeah. I was wondering about that jump store. That's what distracted me. I was like, that's a good recommendation. Did something go wrong? Okay. I think Mr. Blobbyfish should be a fish that looks like a regular blobfish, but is actually quite intelligent. Uncle Kitty says, explode inferior if you mention his blobbiness. Blobfish are traditionally a simple creature that do little but snap at passing shrimp. Whatever. However, among the blobfish, there are a mysterious group of evolved forms that are highly intelligent, extremely pedantic, and robustly bureaucratic. The only way to tell the difference between a regular blobfish and a Mr. Blobbyfish is the small black silk tie they all wear. However, if you have the misfortune of fishing them out of the water, you will quickly be berated by various legal intricacies and their facts and logic a questionable I'll just say as they call them. Zombie Wolf says, sounds like your typical Mensa alumni. Oh, Mensa. The hustle that just keeps going. Jumpstore says lol based zombie. All right. Yeah, IQ is an interesting thing because outside of like maybe its earliest days, what it actually measures was never really intelligence. And I don't just mean that as like I realize that there's a whole bunch of politics around that. There's a really excellent video by a YouTuber named Sean, Shaun, on one of the more modern variations of the worst versions of the applications of IQ, called well, it's on the book, The Bell Curve, but which is just racist nonsense. But but modern renditions of it, as a person who did psychology as a part of my degree, I don't really claim to be measuring anything you can rank per se, but a lot of people don't grasp that and look for any kind of reassurance. Sounds like they should have a pretty low difficulty scoring. Nerds aren't typically very strong, and as a fish, they might not be able to build weapons and defenses as well. Yes, I think what we should do is we should have them a low rating, but a powerful special ability to do with, I don't know, irritating the hell out of you or something. Like, yeah, that's my balance. Like, I think it should be a difficulty score of like 6, so almost anybody could kill them if they wanted. But then the special ability is, like, if you roll special ability, when you miss Mr. Blobbyfish will begin a long and extremely irritating rant that involves relating your Jumpstore, I like your idea, but you're giving them more credit than I was intending to give them. I was thinking of, like, if Ben Shapiro was a fish, where, like, he says a lot of stuff, but the only reason why you can't respond is because you would need to teach several college courses to explain how many things they were wrong about. I'm just trying to find a way to explain that. Jumpstore says they'll try to debate their enemies and get philosophical, giving their enemies an existential crisis and completely destroying them mentally in the process. I do like that, though. But that's more of a compliment than I want to give the Mr. Blobbyfish. I should say, in the back of my head, I am thinking of I don't know if you had these in high school. I don't know if these still exist in high school. But there were these guys, almost exclusively guys, who would show up in suits every day and obviously thought they were done with high school and just waiting for the kids to catch up, and would talk like they were already millionaires and you fools, what are you doing? Like that. That's who I have in my mind. But what the hell? Let's take that. Whoop. Uncle Kitty said they're so factually wrong you have a stroke. Exactly. Yeah. They'll How about they'll begin to debate their enemies' experiences aiming to give their enemies an existential crisis and insisting they completely theft. Oh, what is the, I just have to check something mechanically here. I think I know how to sort of limit it. If your intelligence score is above 1, which is, the maximum you can have in this game is 3. In other words, if you put any points into intelligence, the flaws of their argument drive you to madness, and you wander whispering rageful words to yourself for 1d6 days. Does that work? I feel like that's a good fusion of Uncle Kitty and Jumpstore's view of this. If people don't know who Ben Shapiro is, by the way, good. I'm envious. Don't fix that. Don't Google. Don't worry about it. Live your happy life. Never know. Uncle Kitty laughed at 1d6 days. I hope people don't feel like I'm stepping on their ideas here. This is like the most personal thing I've ever written here, because that's what happens to me. Sometimes I will witness some sort of account, or somebody will supposedly make reference to something I know about, right, like philosophy or psychology, and that very specific experience where you know about something and then you watch somebody say so many wrong things that you could never type a comment long enough to actually respond to it. And so you're just left in a quiet little rage, whispering to yourself. I keep forgetting, so I look him up only to immediately forget who he is and why he's a meme the very next day. What an enviable life. Jumpstory never fixed that. Okay. I think we could do one more. I mean, I'm having fun. I don't know how fun this actually is, but I'm having fun. I feel like something that swarms. We should have something that swarms. It doesn't have to be like a bug swarm, but something where it'd be a lot of little things. Like, I don't know, some kind of gnome, or something like that. Goblins, piskies, or what we more traditionally call pixies from Cornish legend, or so on and so forth. Ghost frogs, love it. Oh, Jumpstore says my Kutsune Hydra. Okay, we'll do 2 more then. But we'll bang out 2 more. Ghost frogs, and then we'll do the Kitsune. So, Ghost frogs. Is there a fun name for that? What are other names for ghosts? Like revenants, wraiths. Amphibionants. It's so bad. Well, we're not here to do a good job. Tammy says, I'm having a fun time too, Rory. I'm glad to hear that, Tammy. Tammy, you ever tried any of the tabletop RPGs in your life? I know it's a more modern phenomenon, but you know, it goes all the way back to the 80s. Just a spectral. That's a good one too. Ghost frogs. Now how does a swamp get infected with ghost frogs? What's a fun way for that to happen? Uncle Kitty says, unlike other ghosts, amphibionants. It's such a stupid name. Can reproduce. I like that idea. That's the kind of original thinking we're going for. Just trying to think about where the hook is on their origin. Oh, I know. Oh, okay. Zombie Wolf says they tried to do pest control in the nearby pond, but the frogs turned into vengeful spirits because they were killed just as mating season started. I love it. Love it. Some years passed. A group of pest control alchemists were called to clear a large swamp of I like it too because it connects with Uncle Kitty's as well. A group of pest control alchemists were called to clear a large swamp of noisy frogs. The local town said that the population had become so large they could barely speak loud enough to be heard by another when they were near the swamp. The alchemists poured a potion, I guess just a poison, into the pond that was quite successful at wiping out the frogs, but only the female frogs. This occurred during the beginnings of their mating season, and whether it's not out the right weather. Come on, there we go. And whether by mysterious frog magic or sheer will of spirit. The frogs persisted after death, continued breeding, this is getting to be too long a sentence. I'm going to rephrase this a bit. It is unknown how, but continued breeding and produced a plague of nigh unkillable ghostly or spectral frogs. These frogs can be heard any time of day, but can only be seen in the moonlight. Difficulty score, well, they're just little frogs, so I guess like an 8. Special ability. Actually, Zombie Wolf, that's a good idea. I think I'm going to take Zombie Wolves, but I like Uncle Kitty says special ability, if you fail to damage, you spend 1 round thinking about what the hell am I doing with my life? Actually, I like that. Special ability, if you fail to do damage, then 2 more amphibians spawn the next turn. I do like your suggestion, Uncle Kitty, though. But I'm partial to that summoning more. I do that with goblins sometimes in my D&D games. Actually, I can still work it in. If more than 8 amphibians are present and you miss, then you must spend 1 turn wondering, what the hell am I doing with my life? Genera's here. Says, I'm late, but at least I made it to say hi. Well, you're never late, Genera. It's always good to see you. And hello, and thank you for watching. Just got off. We're trying out a new schedule, so now I get off the same time Varietal is streaming. Well, I'm sure that's actually why they made the schedule that way. I am, after all, pretty well known. Did you notice that I had a video go to 1,300 views? 1,300. Unheard of on YouTube. Is there even a bigger number? Probably not. I can't name one. Okay. And then the last one we're doing is the Kitsune Hydra, was it? Kitsune Hydra, yes. Hydra Kitsune variant. Zombie Wolf says 208 subscribers is nothing to sneeze at. Yeah, actually, I've been getting emails from Mr. Beast about how I do it. I don't care. I'm very pleased that anybody watches this. This is more than I ever expected. Okay. So Genera, I don't know if you've ever played like D&D, but basically we're looking at Pocket Hex and we're writing character monsters for it because I feel like it deserves a bit of a monster manual. Bumped the wrong wire there. So we've just been creating characters and we just give them a little bit of a backstory, a difficulty rating, and then a special ability. Genera says, even if I can't make it to the streams, I'm still glad the channel is growing. Used to be just GS me. Yeah, sometimes it was just me and GS. There was a different crowd in the first year. Not nearly as big as this, but a somewhat consistent crowd. But I don't know. I think I was still figuring my way out. And as I started to change, they sort of filtered off. Genera says, I aspire to. Got the books and characters. No friends who play, though. Yeah. That is the downside of being a tabletop RPG fan. If you don't happen to already be in a group of friends who do play them, you kind of just have to make new friends. Like, it's much easier to make a new friend than to try and talk someone into it. Genera says, my favorite part, character creation. That's good. That means you'll never be too sad when your character dies. Okay. So what were we thinking with the Kitsune variant of the Hydra? Jumpstore says a Kitsune was hiding from a young adventurer trying to prove themselves and use the amulet of Inari to transform into an aquatic monster. But the amulet had a mischievous mind and only transformed the Kitsune partly, so it became part Hydra and part Kitsune. Which occurs to me, some people might not know what a Kitsune is. If you know Pokemon, there is a creature that is essentially the same, but it's a multi-tailed fox. That's a reductive way to put it. But but yeah, for those who don't know. I don't know, I guess because I introduced my mug today, I just keep having in my head the idea of a Kintsugi Kitsune. Uncle Kitty says, BRB need to feed cat. I bet you do. Okay, so a Kitsune was hiding from a young adventurer trying to prove themselves and use the amulet of Inari to transform into an aquatic monster. But the amulet had a mischievous mind and only transformed the Kitsune partly and became part Hydra and part Kitsune. Okay, so I'm going to use that as a jumping off point. A local village chief said that his successor would be the one who brought him the tales of the kitsune. Many young hunters pursued the nimble creature across its forest. And well, they never caught up. The kitsune grew worried and tired. One day, when it was pleading and at the spirits and pondering its tactics, a mysterious amulet was laid by unseen hand before its paws. This was the amulet of Inari, and with it a shadow whispered the words, "Lead them to the river, swift, and wear the amulet as you cross, so they'll drown and you'll find it as cozy as a road." Gemstore says Inari is a trickster god that was known for being able to shapeshift. I think in Japanese folklore, for those who don't know. And even change genders like Loki in Norse mythology. So I figured I'd say the amulet that transformed the kitsune belonged to Inari. Yeah, I think it was well decided. Alright, lead them to the river swift to wear the amulet. We're talking about Hello Kitty and its weird lore, which is indeed weird. And you'll find it as cozy as a road. The next time the kitsune was hunted by the local village sons, it bore the amulet and waded into the water, to the frothing water. And so it was, the hunter was swept away. However, its price was that its form became a mutation between its fox figure in the many-headed, scaled beast known as a Hydra. Alright. Difficulty score. I'm gonna make it an 8. I'm gonna show you why in a moment. The special ability is every 2 turns actually, I'll just say every turn the Hydra grows 2 more heads that replenish its health. If it exceeds its health pool, then the pool difficulty score increases by 1 to a maximum of 12. GS says, my puppy is barking at me nonstop, trying to play with her, pay attention to chat at the same time, but she's not stupid, and she knows my attention's divided. GS says she's a 5-pound dynamo. And then Gennaro says dynamo. Dynamo is just a slang way of saying, like, high energy. Alright. Tammy Morelli says, I have a Cheagle. 39 pounds. It's big. Gennaro says, apes make sense. Katsuni can be pretty powerful. Throw in the Hydra ability and you're in for some fun. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see what we came up with. If you're coming to this part of the show, it's because you just want to know the monsters we came up with for Pocket Hicks. By the way, if you want to make little drawings of them or something and share them with me on Mastodon, go right ahead. I'd be interested to see them. They don't need to be good. I don't think that's the point of this show, to be good. So basically what we were doing is for the game, just to remind you, for the game that we were playing, which is called Pocket Hicks, which is a solo D&D game, basically. It's not D&D literally, but it's basically D&D. The game itself is well described, but it didn't have any pre-done monsters, really. So we wanted to make a sort of little monster manual for this little indie solo tabletop RPG, the way that D&D has a monster manual. And we came up with 6 monsters. The first one is Unicorn Manticore Variation. Sometimes a unicorn is born tone deaf and cannot join the morning choirs of happy unicorn music. These variants either take up the drums or run away and join up with roving bands of creatures, including manticores. When this happens, hybrid offspring are born, typically called mantunicorns, I think is how I pronounce that, who are noted for their songs that resemble trumpet solos and squealing pigs. Difficulty score, a youngling is an 8 and an adult is a 10. Special ability, and we gave each of these characters special abilities, which based on your dice rolls, hopefully create story opportunities. Special ability, if both dice are the same number, then the player must cover their ears and complain about the terrible singing for 1 round. Number 2, Nemean Lion Dragon, which was the Nemean Lion is the lion that Hercules battles. The Nemean Lion Dragon, when it was not combing its golden hair or fighting off pumped-up trust fund kids of Zeus, enjoyed long hours of opera singing. Their grand voice was heard throughout the valleys. it would wander. Though most wept at its beauty, at the beauty of its songs, Steve, the passable wizard, hated how it distracted him from his studies of mediocre magic. So one day he mixed up a potion meant to stifle the voice of the Grand Golden Lion, but accidentally added dragon's blood instead of the silent puffer's blood. The consequence was, when he threw it into the open mouth of the Grand Lion during the peak of an aria, he only fused it and morphed it into the creature into a hybrid dragon lion that now burned cities and forests with its beautiful songs. Difficulty score is 12, of course. And special ability. If a hit is only for 1 damage, then roll 2d6 again, and if the total is less than 8, you do no damage and instead are fascinated by the beauty of its scales. This applies to the creature as well. Number 3, which I think was probably the best one we came up with. Guinea pigs. No, that's not a typo. Guinea pigs. A wizard named Loicutus attempted alchemy in order to impress an order of his magic school fraternity. In order to impress his magic school fraternity is really what I should say. He decided to try animal fusions to create the ultimate weapon. His first preliminary experiment on a pet guinea pig of his turned out to be the most successful. So successful, in fact, that the first guinea pig, Walter, was grown to 700 pounds and immediately ate his creator. Walter continues to eat its way through bales of hay while running hell-bent for leather through the farmer's fields. Difficulty score is a 12. It is the ultimate killing machine. Special ability. Each successful roll, you can choose instead to cuddle or comfort the guinea pig. This is counted as if it were damage, except upon depleting its health pool, it goes to sleep and becomes friendly, though it will never follow instructions. If you offer it hay or vegetables, that automatically does 6 cuddle damage. If at any point you choose to do regular damage, the guinea pig will never be friendly to you, and no further cuddle damage will work. Mr. Blobbyfish. Blobfish are traditionally a simple creature that do little but snap at passing shrimp. However, among the blobfish, there are various mysterious groups of evolved forms that are highly intelligent, extremely pedantic, and robustly bureaucratic. The only way to tell the difference on sight alone between a regular blobfish and a Mr. Blobbyfish is the small black silk tie they all wear. However, if you have the misfortune of fishing them out of the water, you will quickly be berated by various legal intricacies and their facts and logic, as they call them. Their difficulty score is 6. However, their special ability is when you miss, anytime you miss, Mr. Blobbyfish will begin to debate their enemies' experiences, aiming to give their enemies an existential crisis, and insisting they completely destroyed them in the process. If your intelligence score is above 1, again in this game the highest your intelligence could be is 3, it's not like D&D. In other words, if you put any points at all in intelligence, the flaws of their argument drive you to madness and you wander whispering rageful words to yourself for 1d6 days. In other words, if you have a brain at all, they will break it. Number 5. Amphibonants, or ghost frogs. Some years past, a group of pest control alchemists were called to clear a large swamp of noisy frogs. The local town said that the population had become so large they could barely speak loud enough to be heard by another when they were near the swamp. The alchemist poured a poison into the swamp that was quite successful at wiping out the frogs, but for some reason only the female frogs. This occurred during the beginnings of their mating season, and it is unknown how, but by mysterious frog magic or sheer will of spirit, the frogs persisted after death, continued breeding, and produced a plague of nigh unkillable spectral frogs. These frogs can be heard any time of day, but can only be seen in the moonlight. Difficulty score is 8. If you fail to do damage, then 2 more amphibonants spawn the next turn. If more than 8 amphibonants are present and you miss, then you must spend 1 turn wondering, what the hell am I doing with my life? Thank you to Uncle Kitty for that one. Number 6, Hydra, Kitsune variant. A local village chief said that his successor would be the one who brought him the tales of the Kitsune. Many young hunters pursued the nimble creature across its forest. Though they never caught up, the Kitsune grew worried and tired. One day, when it was pleading at the spirits and pondering its tactics, a mysterious amulet was laid by unseen hand before its paws. This was the amulet of Inari, and with it a shadow whispered the words, "Lead them to the river swift, and wear the amulet as you cross, so they'll drown, and you'll find it as cozy as a road to travel." The next time the kitsune was hunted by the local village sons, it bore the amulet and waded into the frothing water, and so it was the hunter was swept away. However, its price was that its form became a mutation between its fox figure and the many-headed scaled beast known as a hydra. Its difficulty score is 8. However, every turn the hydra grows 2 more heads that replenish its health. If it exceeds its health pool, I should say every turn after it takes damage. If it exceeds its health pool, then the difficulty score increases by 1 to a maximum of 12. And those were the ones we came up with. So if you're playing Pocket Hex, you go right ahead. And I mean, it's a solo tabletop RPG, so maybe it's balanced. Hard to say. Genera says cuddle damage is the only valid damage. Kill him with kindness. I think that's a good variant. GS says I drew a Lunar New Year's card combining a Boston Terrier head and a black and white markings on a dragon body. It was a fun challenge. You should have recommended that. We could have done that. A Boston Terrier dragon. Zombie Wolf says the saying "kill them with kindness" originally meant to give them a taste of their own medicine, aka their own kind, such as the example in The Taming of the Shrew. I didn't know that. Zombie Wolf says he attempts to take Katarina with kindness, but what that meant at the time is that he would be just as nasty to her as she was to everyone else. I never did anything from Taming of the Shrew, but I did do some Shakespeare. I think the most extensive thing I did in Shakespeare is I was the prince in The Tempest, which I think I've mentioned before. Zombie Wolf says, well, I told Rory that I loved useless trivia, so I thought I'd make my quota for this stream. Yes. Actually, you're a little behind, Zombie Wolf. I expect it. Every stream. Money's on the way, but, am I getting my useless trivia? And by money, I mean, good job. Exposure. I'll mention your useless trivia. All right, if you want to get paid in exposure, come back next week to get exposure to the fastest growing channel on YouTube. Don't look that up. Just trust me. Zombie Wolf says, sorry, I'll remember next time. Well, thank you very much to Genera for dropping by after work there. Jum Store, GS, Uncle Kitty, Zombie Wolf, Tammy, and Witchery. And I think that's all we had in our crowd tonight. I'm sorry if I forgot you. Thank you very much for watching. I really enjoyed spending time with you folks tonight. If you do choose to get the Pocket Hex game, a reminder, it's a part of Solo But Not Alone 4 on itch.io for, I think, $10 or something. You can get it and like 125 other games, and the money goes to charity. So you can take our little monster manual and try out the game for yourself. We really enjoyed it. I almost certainly will play more Pocket Hex, partially because it was popular and to see if that was a fluke or not, but also because I think we all really enjoyed it. There was something fun about, the chat being my DM, so to speak. But probably not next week. We'll see what we do next week. I have some recommendations that came through that I'm looking at. We'll see what I can do. But beyond that, thank you everybody for tuning in. Of course, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Get out of my shop.